Are you looking for valuable business advice to reach that 7-figure revenue mark? Do you want actionable tips to properly navigate through every business challenge you encounter along the way? Let Tersh Blissett and Josh Crouch be your guide in getting you to the top here at Service Business Mastery. Tune in as they sit down with world-renowned authors in business, leadership, and personal growth who share valuable insights about management, marketing, pricing, human resources, and so much more. Let their nuggets of wisdom gold guide you in owning a thriving, profitable, and ever-growing business. Here are your hosts, Tersh and Josh.
Happy Thursday, everybody. This is a special edition of the Service Business Mastery Podcast. Normally we do these on Wednesdays, but every once in a while, Tersh and I find some guests that we want to kind of get in midweek. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the podcast world at all, when you schedule your shows, it can get way out in advance. I think we're already booked out to like February or March. So when we want to have special guests and things like that we find really interesting, we kind of have to change it up a little bit. And that's what we did today. So our guests today are actually guests that I literally just happened to run into at Service World Expo in Kentucky about a month ago. I was walking the venue. I think this was even Tersh before you got there. I walked the venue. I turned the corner. I saw a software company standing there, and James and Tracy started talking to me a little bit, and was really interested in their product because, as most of you know, there's really only a couple products everybody knows in the CRM space for home service companies. And I mean, most of you guys know who those are. I don't need to name drop those, but it seems that we're getting some new entrants, if you will, into the CRM space, which I think is good for all, right? Competition's good for everybody. It makes everyone better.
For me, I feel like it's and Tracy and James, they can correct me if I'm wrong on this when they come on. But right now they're in the green room, so I can say whatever I want to, and they can't interrupt me. So it's one of those things where for me, how long has it been? A 13-year overnight success. So it's like, oh, here we go. Yeah. I see you. I know who you are. You like kind of blew up. You're like, yeah, I've only been doing it for like what, 100 years, but yeah,
half my adult life.
Yeah. So I get to Service World Expo because I was at Emerson for a week prior to that. So I was like, I'm in Savannah. For anybody geographically challenged, Savannah's down south. I go up to Ohio to Emerson factory, and we do an influencer event there. And I'm driving back down south to go to Kentucky to come to Service World Expo. And we get in there, and I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm talking to everybody at the event. Josh is walking beside me, and
Very
Josh
true.
is like, he's looking at me. He's like, man, stopping. And I was like, well, I feel like a jerk if I don't say hey to all these people that I know. And then we get over to, we're sitting down and actually talking and debriefing about what we got going on. And Josh is telling me all those things he's excited about. And I think the most excited part about him, whenever he was telling me about these guys here, is he found the 5 people that I don't know. And he was like, we got to have them on the show. I was like, all right, let's do it. But yeah, Josh has talked up very highly and stayed in connection with it, because we all know that we go to these events and it's very easy for us to collect business cards and then never talk to that person again. But Josh is relentless. I wonder why. I wonder why it's named Relentless Digital. But anyways, right. Yeah, I just wanted to add that 2 cents. But you can go ahead.
Thanks for the shameless plug.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for the plug. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
so with that being said, let's hear more about the story of these guys, because the beautiful thing about this, and I'm not going to ruin the whole story, is they actually built a CRM for their own service and construction business first. So it's a little different story than anything you've heard. So with that being said, let's bring in Tracy and James.
Morning.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Morning.
Hey.
How are you guys today?
Great.
Fabulous.
How about you?
Great. Thanks for having us on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
100%.
No, this This is great. Tersh, you trying to figure out the screen layout?
Yeah, I was just moving things
I know
around.
myself to. There we go.
Josh
So-
is you can tell when Josh is messing with the back end of stuff because he's like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
feel like somebody
Canned
has
answers.
somebody has complete control over me right now, and I can do nothing about it.
Right. Yeah.
You got nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tracy, okay, so I'm going to be super inquisitive, and you're probably going to answer some questions that you've already answered with Josh, and you probably
Sure.
answer these all the time. But because I'm not familiar with the platform, and I'm not familiar with your story. How did Service Point Pro come about, and is that like did Josh say that you have a business, or you still have that business currently?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a service and construction business in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We've been in business for about 35 years. We have probably 350 total technicians on the road between residential and commercial services.
Oh, that's it.
And so that's it. Yeah, just a couple guys.
Just
I
a
always
drop
tell
in the
people it's
bucket.
just one guy driving all over town all day long.
Okay, so let me interrupt you on that one because I literally had 2 vans on the road last year whenever we first started the business. Was it last year? Yeah, last year. And people were like, man, you got guys all over the place. I see y'all every time I'm out and about. I'm like, it's literally just one guy driving around. For real. It's one guy driving around.
That's pretty effective marketing, though. I mean, you're more
That's
bang for
real
your buck.
marketing.
Yeah, so we the way we got into this, we've been doing service work for a long time, and we went through, I don't know, I've been in the plumbing business for about 30 years now, and so been through a lot of software conversions over the years. And maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I can't remember exactly how long it's been, it was time to take the next step. And we went out and started looking around in the market, and cloud-based CRMs were just coming around at that point, so it's pretty new. So we went and visited a few companies, went and got our eyes on some of the software, talked to everybody in the market, and really just couldn't find what we were looking for. I mean, we were unique because we have a construction company also, and at that time, our construction business was a bigger part of our business than our service business. And so we used an accounting system that was more accustomed to construction work, and there was really no software, no service software that was going to connect with that software. And we learned that pretty fast. So if we wanted any integration capabilities, we were going to have to find somebody new or just not integrate, to be honest with you. And I was really pumped to go mobile. At that point, I think we had about 100 trucks on the road, and just the paper was overwhelming every single day. And I was like, how do we do this differently? And so we sat down and said, is there a way that we could do this differently? James had come to work for us as a part of an acquisition that we had done of an industrial service company. They did industrial maintenance and stuff, and we'd acquired them. And he worked for them at the time, and he clearly, he just has a unique talent for technology, better than most people I've ever met. And so went and talked to him a little bit and said, hey, is there any way that you could build us like a mobile application to connect with our accounting system, because there clearly just wasn't anything else on the market that was going to work for us. And he said, gosh, I just don't know if I have that capacity. He's just never done it before. So he goes away for about a month, and he comes back around and says, yeah, I think I could do that now. And I'm like, it's been a month.
I took a course, so
Yeah, I took a course.
I'm certified somewhere.
So University of Google.
Yeah, I was razzing Josh yesterday when we were interviewing Jeremy with Giant, and we were talking about coaches and stuff, and then we're talking about digital marketing agencies. I think it was with Jeremy. Our interviews run together, but I was like, yeah, all you gotta do is just take a course online and you become a digital marketing agency.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give Jeremy a shameless plug just because we've been using their product for a long time, and that's if you need to grow the leadership in your business, it's a great way to do it. And we won't spend all day talking a lot about it, but it's a great program for people that need to grow, the leaders. and just up the level of their game and their business as far as leadership development. They do a great job over there.
And going into it, I had almost talked myself out of signing up for it, because yesterday afternoon I was like, oh yeah, we're signing up for that. We're definitely doing that. And then you get on today and it's like, all right, well, maybe that's a sign, because Tracy's like, yeah, this is great. I'm like,
Right.
Okay.
I wish I could say that I plan these interviews that way, but
Right. That's hilarious.
So
Yeah,
you guys you decided to build a mobile application. James all of a sudden says he can do it, right? So what does that process look like as far as, I mean, how long did it take for you guys to come up with the concepts and building like the actual bones of this thing?
Yeah, I could speak better to that one than Tracy. They had a really accelerated timeline that they wanted to meet, because by the time
6
they
months.
asked for it, they were already like, yeah, we need it yesterday. And
That's
so
the way it goes, isn't it?
yeah, it was. I'll backpedal on that a little bit. Before we actually, started building it, they had me kind of looking around at what was on the market already, and so I got a general feel for what was out there and what they needed. On top of what they said they needed. Like, okay, well, they said they want this, but I think what they really need is this, and so. Initially, it was like a 6-month timeline that they wanted. Like, hey, can we get something together in the next 6 months so we can start using it? And
what time frame was it? Like, what year was this?
that was 2014, I think.
Oh, okay. So this is like
This is a while ago.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
the
it was-
early adopters of cloud-based programs.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so yeah, there's 6 months or so that they were like, yeah, can we maybe get going with it in 6 months? And the common theme was, I said no, and I don't like saying no ever. I just don't think
That's probably a hell no.
I don't think I could do that, but it always kind of evolves. I say no, and then I walk out of the room and say, is it a no, or is it a maybe? And then
See, I did the exact opposite, and I'm like, I said yes, but I really should have said no.
no, see, yeah. Well, I think I've kind of flip-flopped over the years, and now I'm more of a, oh yeah. And then I'm like, well, man, that's going to be tough, but I already said yes, so I guess we're doing it.
We're going to figure it out.
Yeah. And so it was about a 6-month timeline. I was holed up in an attic, more or less. They kept me separated
Locked
from everybody.
from the outside.
Yeah, exactly. There's a dragon guarding the window, and but no, I spent a lot of time, just working through stuff and figuring it out as I went, and got an initial kind of proof of concept together, and then showed it to them, like, all right, I think this will work, and it integrated with their accounting system, and then it was like, okay, great, let's start using it. And I was like, whoa, this is a proof of concept. Like, let's build on it a little bit first. So that 6 months turned into more like 10 months. But then by the time that was ready, the dispatch side of it was still existing in the accounting system that they had, because it had a service management piece. And so I was basically just integrating into that, and just creating a mobile portal on top of it. And so they went live with that. And that was before they even started using the mobile app, but the dispatch side of it was a train wreck, because that system was not built to accommodate like a large service company. It was more like
that time. How many technicians was it at that time?
About 100 at that time.
Okay.
100 techs on the road, residential mostly.
Right. And so they had a commercial and a residential division. And for commercial, it was fine, because, the volume of calls coming into that call center weren't so bad. So they were able to go in and build the stuff they needed. But for the residential side, that system that they were using was very cumbersome to dispatch out of. And so about a month after that, they said, no, we're not going to be able to launch the residential side on this, but we'll keep the commercial side on it. And I didn't take offense to that, because I didn't build that dispatch thing. I just built something that worked with it.
Yeah.
And so then Tracy comes and says, I need you to build a dispatch board and a call handler, because what we have is not going to work. Yeah. And same thing. We need it yesterday. And so
is it ever anything different though?
Tracy, I can't see you being a pioneer at all.
Well, it was It was May and we were busy. We had things to do.
And gonna get busier. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, I set the task with, trying to build the things that we needed in there. And he wanted that, it was almost exactly another 6-month thing. I was like, all right, we want that in December. So beginning of the year, we can just cut over and start using that. And a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of second guessing and being like, I don't know if I can actually do this. Like, I mean, it works good enough, but for the volume of calls coming in, like this is going to be difficult to accommodate. Another thing, it just kind of schedule creeped out to almost exactly a year after they originally had wanted to go live with the other one that we finally, went live with that. And timing wise wasn't fantastic because that was actually my 10th wedding anniversary, was the week after that. And we had planned a 10-day trip to Europe. And so we're going live, we're going live with new software. And I'm going to be in Italy for a week. And it actually didn't turn out too bad. We launched, there was a couple hiccups the first couple days. But then after that, we smoothed everything out. And I think the whole time I was over in Europe, I had time zone difference. I was up at like 2 a.m. fixing a bug, but there was like,
so
once
tell
or
me
twice,
how is Italy's internet service?
It honestly wasn't bad. It was actually better than I expected. I was expecting, like dial-up speed, but it was pretty good. So beyond that, it was just a constant refinement for a couple of years, and adding additional features. And looking back on it, I was like, man, I really would have loved to be able to plan this out instead of like them saying, I need this, and now I need this, and now I need this. And so it was more reactive programming and not proactive programming.
Yeah. So not a roadmap.
Exactly. Like they had kind of features that they wanted, but it was like at this time, this one's more important. And so after a couple years of doing that, it was like, this works, but it's only going to work so well because the fundamentals and the foundation wasn't built to be able to build all these additional things on top of it. It was, I kind of equate it to building like a tower out of Legos, and you're trying to build out the penthouse first before, all the rest of the stuff has been put into place. And so, it worked, but it definitely wasn't anything that we could take and sell to other companies, which was never really the goal. Actually, that was, we wanted something that worked for us, and it did work for us. But then the owner of that company would probably every couple months be like, so when are we going to sell this? And originally it was never. And then it was, well, probably not. And so gradually that evolved to, I really think we could do this, but like, we're going to have to rebuild the whole thing. Just, the way that I see it needing to be built.
Where's that along the time frame? Where are we at when you guys decided to rebuild the entire thing?
When we officially decided to do that, that was in about March of 2018. And so
okay,
that was the point at which we're like, you know what, let's do this. We're going to create a plan. We're going to figure out how we're going to get there, but that is, the plan. And so again, it went back to me being holed up in a room, and like working day and night trying to get stuff. They have
a little slot in the door where they like open it up and
exactly.
Give him a new laptop because he's been working so long.
Melted the other one.
You're right. But so that was a good about 2-year process. That originally it was we're going to try and get this out to market in a year and a half. And, that kind of pushed again a little bit further and a little bit further. But after about 2 years, we decided to, it was at a point where, all right, now we're going to beta test this internally. And, with that company, we had about a 20-man team up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, that was a good beta test subject. And so we launched it with them, and that was a real good learning process with what works, what doesn't work, what do we need to tweak, and whatnot. And so we ran that for a while, and then just kept adding and adding and adding onto it till eventually it was, at the point where now I think it's ready. And one thing about software is if you wait till it's ready, it's never going to be fully ready. Like from a perfectionist standpoint, from a perfectionist standpoint, I want to add this and this and this and this and this. And there's always going to be things that you want to add to it. And every time you add something new, it's like, that's cool, but I could also do this. And then you just open up new doors and avenues that you can run down and build new things. And so we had to kind of cut off and say, all right, this is going to be, the initial product. And then here's the things that we're going to roll out, a quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters later. And so you build another roadmap on top of the launch saying, here's the new things that we're going to add into it. And so in, what was that? I think September, really, that Service World Expo is kind of our unofficial launch party. We had our internal stuff using it, and now it was, let's start selling this to other companies. And so running into Josh at that.
This recent Service World Expo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what's up. That's cool.
Yeah, we were like, this is where we're going. We're ready to do it. And that was us pulling the trigger. So
tell me this. Let me ask, and I don't know who's better to answer this. What is this program going to be great for a company? So I have a friend of mine that I meet with every Friday, and that 2 of them actually in my group that they do construction and they're getting into service. They were really heavy in construction. I think one of them was really heavy in commercial construction. And the other is residential, plumbing, both of them. I could be way off. Sorry guys, if I mess that up, but it's, they both did construction, got into service. They've had some challenges with the CRM because our common consensus, there's 10 of us that meet every Friday. We all use the same CRM and we're like, well, just use this. And they're like, that doesn't work.
You're going to make it work.
Yeah. And that's what we basically were saying. Like, I can answer questions about this because I know the workarounds with that. So for me to ask, what is this going to be a solution to them? Because currently I haven't, not that I know of, have found a solution for them in this situation. And also one of them uses Foundation, and I don't know if you have an integration with Foundation for the accounting side of things. Every time I talk to them, I'm like, I thought everybody used QuickBooks. That's all I ever heard of. And then they're like, oh no, we use this. And then I have another friend in there that he was like, oh no, we use this thing. One of them had Peachtree, and I was like, y'all are blowing my mind here. I thought it was QuickBooks Online. Like, that's all I thought.
There's a whole lot more out there than you realize. I see ads. I see ads more specifically probably than most people because in building integrations and going to documentation websites and whatnot, cookies are now on your machine, and every time you get on Facebook or anything, it's like boom, QuickBooks, boom, Intuit, like all these different. You got NetSuite and a bunch of different, and then you start seeing these things like that's even a thing. I've never heard of that. But I always look at that kind of stuff with, I don't look at it and say, I've never heard of that. I'm not going to pay it any mind because that's what we are. We're the guy that nobody's heard of. And what I want people to be like, nah, that's not one of the big 3 that I know, I'm not going to pay it any mind. So I'd start poking into some of those things and saying, wow, more people should be using this. Because personally, I've used QuickBooks. We're all experienced with QuickBooks, and anyone who's ever developed for QuickBooks will quickly see just how basic it is, and it's not anywhere near as flexible as you would think it would be for being such a gigantic thing.
I think it's less the business owners that want QuickBooks. It's the accountants. They're like, I know QuickBooks. I'm not doing your taxes unless.
That's how they all learn.
Yeah, super simple, easy to use, easy to adapt to.
So,
but
Jace, he just texted me and corrected me. He's actually watching us live on YouTube. Mainly new construction, commercial, and high-end residential plumbing. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know that Service Point Pro bridges that gap necessarily. That unfortunately, construction work, the accounting side of construction work is much more complicated than the service side of
I'm
our
learning that.
industry.
Yeah.
You know, with job costing and work in progress billing, all of that stuff. And so those are all accounting functions. They aren't necessarily CRM functions, but in order to do that, you have to have your CRM communicate with that accounting system. And so it's a little bit more complicated. Unfortunately, you know, we built it for QuickBooks because obviously that's the industry leader. So unfortunately, we're kind of doing, the reason that we developed this software is because we needed something that communicated with our accounting system, which isn't an accounting system that 99.9% of service companies are going to use. But as we started to develop the software, especially as we decided to sell it commercially, we realized that, you know, if we're going to have customers, we have to really connect to QuickBooks, which kind of takes away that whole job costing feature of it, because QuickBooks kind of has to do some of that for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
does.
total sense to me.
And as far as
Yes.
integrations go, that's obviously that was just the first one. That's the low hanging fruit that everybody's not everybody, but that's the majority of who
Right.
we're gonna try and market to is running on something like that. So that's definitely not where the road stops. It's we're gonna keep going from there. Add more integrations as needed.
Well, you definitely have a vote here that says it would be great if they could integrate with Foundation.
So one of the things that's interesting about Service Point Pro, and I think it's an unintended feature, you know, Fish has built a lot of really cool features into it. One of them is partial billing that a lot of companies don't necessarily have. And he built partial billing into the program. But also, you know, since we have a lot of technicians, you know, we've had to figure out how to manage so many people. So work order management and job costing on the work order level became really, really important to us.
So you're able to take a full project basically and track it and still job cost it without losing stuff. So I mean,
yes and
do you have
no.
a PO system built into that?
Yes.
It does have a PO system, but it's also at the work order level. So when you think about job costing, that's all around a long-term job. You know, in the service world, you don't tend to do really long-term jobs. And so work order management isn't intended to be longer term specific stuff.
Yeah, if my
So there's
guys
not
are on
really
a
a
job for more than 2 days, I'm like, all right, you're about to
Freaking
get
out.
What's
fired.
wrong?
Yeah.
I'm losing money.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, but James built some functionality into it so that you can really get pretty granular on the detail side, especially on the reporting side of the work order detail. So all that job costing function is in there. There just really isn't a work in progress portion to Service Point Pro that really is a pretty critical piece of most larger construction jobs. But the work order management piece is really robust. And so you can, you know, even a month-long job, you can get pretty detailed in Service Point Pro, but you aren't going to get that project management piece that you might need on some of those larger projects.
So since we're talking about, you know, some of the features and stuff like that now, can you guys take us like a high level overview of what is included in the core product?
Sure.
Just so that way anyone that's not familiar with you guys can just be like, hey, it's got this and this and this, but doesn't have this, that sort of thing, and kind of compare at a high level.
Yeah, go ahead, Fish.
Absolutely. Yeah, I could even do a little screen share and show you guys a little bit of it if you want. I don't know if
yeah, go ahead and
that works
bring
for
your
us.
screen up.
right.
While you're bringing that up, though, so back on the project side of things, are you saying that if they do have a project that's more than a month long, that it's probably not going to work out, Tracy?
Not to say that you can't use it for that. But,
Okay, just
but
wondering.
that's not what it was designed to do. There is
Okay.
some other functionality that would be beneficial if you're going to go over multiple months. That multiple month work, that's where the work in progress situation comes in really into play.
Okay,
That's when
and
you're doing work in 1 month, recognizing revenue and costs in 1 month. And so usually in a work order management system, you know, revenue is king, and in the construction industry, cost is kind of king. So a little bit different scenario.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's good. I mean, that kind of answers my question on that. I just I am curious. So if they are looking to get more into services, this going to be a solution for them too? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, so if they're already doing construction work, they probably have a mechanism for managing that. And so we, in our business, we do both commercial and service work, and we use this 100% for all of the service work that we do. And then we manage our jobs, larger projects, less than a month. We manage them through ServicePoint Pro right now. If they're longer than a month, or if they're wage rate jobs, Davis Bacon type work, we're going to manage that in our construction accounting system.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically the feedback I've gotten both of them. Scott's actually commented on our YouTube video there that he uses Computer Ease, I think is what he said. And it does just doesn't do service. It does accounting, but it doesn't do the service side of things. And so, yeah, it sounds like that's similar to what you're describing here.
Yeah, it's a big gap in the market. Unfortunately, CRM, work order management systems don't do job costing, and job costing systems don't do service management. It's actually a huge gap in the industry, but it's because it's a complicated gap to fill.
Well, okay, so Fish, you have 6 months to fill that gap. So.
If you could get it done by Monday, that'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let me go find the dungeon real quick. But to Scott's comment about Computer Ease, we actually, Tracy and I work, one of our coworkers at the service company. He was a financial controller for a company that ran on Computer Ease, and so he's the whole time I've been building the ServicePoint Pro. He's been like, we need to be able to do this so that we can really capture that Computer Ease market, and so it's definitely something that we're working. I'll have to go back to. I haven't talked to him really about that specifically in a while, but he's like, man, there's a lot of people on Computer Ease that this would blow their mind because
now you got one more guy that you know that's on Computer Ease.
Right. But so as far as the software goes, I'll give you the 10,000 foot view of it. One thing about ServicePoint Pro is that we don't have all the add-ons. This is ServicePoint Pro. We're not going to nickel and dime you to death with all these additional little things. So when you sign on with ServicePoint Pro, you get access to all of this, and you don't have to worry about I want to add that, but that's another $1,500 a month or something ridiculous.
Right.
It's all built in there. You can use it, not use it, just per your preference. So this is the call handler. This is obviously where your CSRs are going to be taking information, about work orders, and so when they're on the phone with the customer, they can easily search for customers, pull up customer information. Creating new customers and everything is a pretty simple process. One thing that might seem a little different from depending on what software you're coming from is that we have more fields than some of the other ones do, and there's pretty big logic behind that as far as garbage in, garbage out. If you want detail in your reporting, you got to put detail into the actual work order when you create it. That being said,
let me ask you the time it takes to have the conversation. The CSR is having the conversation, booking the job. Obviously, once they've learned the platform, they're going to be a little quicker. But do you have a situation like how long does this add more time to that conversation? I'm not saying that we need to get on and off the phone really fast by any means, but time is money too if they're not answering the phones and booking jobs.
These are typically things that you're already talking about anyway, so we're just giving you a field to put it in. Otherwise they're putting that in the description, and it's like that's not really, you can't. Running reports against descriptions is, first off, the report's going to take longer because it has to look at a bunch of unstructured text, and then there's no standardized input. So the ability to specify just a couple more pieces of information really cranks up the ability for you to get that detail out on the back end with reporting.
I'll tell you, our average call time is 2.5 to 3 minutes.
Okay, yeah, same as ours.
Consistent with just about anybody else.
Yeah.
So from within the call handler, they have, visibility to history, work orders, invoices, payments, estimates, all that stuff right at their fingertips. That customer can have multiple service sites. So there's a bunch of duplicate ones in there for testing, but obviously this is our test instance. But so you can have multiple service sites. So for landlord-tenant situations, you can have the landlord as the account, and the service sites are his individual properties, and then you can have contacts and everything on those details. So I don't want to get too much into the nitty-gritty of all of this.
Are you able to add custom fields if you want one?
Not really. We're working on that, on how that would look. I've got it formulated on the back end. We haven't implemented that on the front end yet. We do have tags that you can add, just little snippets that are immediately available, when you go to view a work order, so you can see those additional pieces of information. Where custom fields come in handy are definitely being able to make it required and saying, I want them to absolutely put this in every time. Otherwise, tags will work just fine. If you just want to make a note saying this is the gate code for the property or something like that. Right. You can do that.
Yeah, we've had to do some workarounds and create some custom fields for stuff that is like it solved a problem. The person that called in, one of the questions is, do you have the authority to approve the work that's being done on the job? And it's like, no, I'm a tenant. Then we're like, okay, let's stop. Like, that's a stopping point.
Right. And
because we've gone out somewhere and screwed up.
I'll flip back to the work order or the call handler piece of that. So on these contacts, these site contacts, you can specify actually requires approval. So a tenant calls in and says, hey, I need service. And you say, okay, do you own the property? Well, no. Okay, who do we need to contact in order to verify that we can perform this service? And so you can set up that contact. So anytime that contact calls in, it'll say approval required, letting the CSR know that they need to take an extra step to verify with the landlord that they can do that work. So that's a fairly common thing that comes up. Obviously. Now I'm going to clean up my dispatch board here real quick. One pretty cool thing about ServicePoint Pro is you can create custom dispatch boards, and you can create logic to show or to dictate what's shown on that dispatch board. So we have, the ability to add custom folders. I don't know if you saw before I filtered that.
Okay, that's cool.
There was a whole lot more. So see, I've got just a selection, a subset, if you will, of my technicians, and then only specific folders that I want to see. You can create as many custom dispatch boards as you want. You can create as many custom folders within those dispatch boards. Sorry, my screen share seems to be going real slow here because of all the stuff we got going on here. Yeah, it's the computer. It's not a slow computer, obviously. If it was, I wouldn't be able to get much done.
Right. I had that same issue, and the bandwidth, like I pay for fiber optic to become all the way up to my door, and then I'll get laggy on it, and I'm like, why did I pay this much money?
Yeah, well, and one thing too with the screen sharing is that it's not just bandwidth. It's it's actually it's the RAM and everything, the memory available on your computer. So if you're screen sharing and doing video and everything, so I'm going to try and keep this simple. Otherwise, it's going to be real choppy.
Yeah, you're good.
Within the dispatch board, you've got access to everything related to the work order as well. So from the left hand side, you can see everything related to the customer and the service site. We have what are called scopes. So on each work order, you can actually create little subsets of work, saying like, this is on this work order, we're going to do this whole thing. And if you think about it from a job costing perspective, it's almost like phases. If you had, a big install that included additional pieces of work, let's say it was an HVAC install, but there's an electrical component that's exactly what I was asking.
So we can do multi-trade type stuff.
Exactly, and if you're tracking that on an account level, like on a GL account level, on the back end, you can specify separate GL accounts for your electrical division than you would.
Okay, so we can put them in different classes in QuickBooks and stuff.
Exactly. So that. Ooh, I got a nerd word,
and I'm so excited about it.
Classes. That one. They can also create additional trips from down here. This defaults with the details that were input on the work order. So when you select a lead technician, it's like, hey, this guy's the guy that you selected for that. So different companies might want to automatically just dispatch that straight out to that guy. Other companies might say, I want to build all of my stuff that I need for that day, and then dispatch that out afterward. And so it's built to accommodate both ways of doing it. And same thing goes for on the actual dispatch board. When you hover a trip, it pops up with that same information. So you don't have to go to 15 different screens to find the information you need. It's all, right there at your fingertips. So that's a brief overview of the
James.
dispatch board. Yep.
Yeah, James, we do have, it looks like George answered it, but there was a question from a Facebook user. I figure we can jump into that. So we make sure that you answer it and you guys answer it the way, and kind of show what it looks like on your end as far as repair pricing options. And
right.
I think the question is essentially, can you offer multiple options on every single call?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a price book built into it. We offer integration with Profit Rhino as far as price book. If you want to use their price book, if you don't have your own and you want to get started with a price book, you can use that. As well as if you have your own and it's fully built out, we can import it and make that easier for you to handle. We do also have agreement management, so you can create custom agreements and agreement types. And then easily offer those from within your work orders.
Now, is that if there's a recurring service, like if you have a commercial client that we go out there and change their filters every month, is there a way to set up? Do you have the ability to set that type of recurring service?
Yeah, exactly. Let me. So this is just going to pull up the actual agreements. But if I go to agreement types,
so while you're working on that, can we also charge the credit card automatically every month if they have that set up? Okay.
Yeah, so we can set that up, and actually, the credit card integration is a fairly new piece of this. We've got credit card payments accepted. We don't have that tied into agreements for auto billing, but that's something that we'll be doing in the next couple months. Is just getting that tied together within the payments portal. You can set that up, but it's not directly tied to the agreement. So as far as flexibility on the agreements, again, this kind of goes back to, that's kind of a lot of fields, but that's where you get the ability to really make it robust and flexible. You can set your billing frequency. How often are we billing for this? Are we recognizing this revenue? Are we amortizing it? We taking it at time of service or time of billing? How long is this agreement going to last if a customer signs up for it? And then a price method. How do you want to price that? Some people might just say, I have a $199 agreement that we sell, and it includes these things. And other people might have, we're going to charge $50 per AC, and so you can specify all that stuff within the agreement types. And then tasks, you can go in and specify what tasks are going to be performed on that agreement type. And same thing, you can.
Is there a deferred revenue? Did you say there is a deferred revenue? Now, whenever you set that up in there, is that sharing to QuickBooks currently?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So it's gonna wait to push that stuff over to QuickBooks until you actually recognize that revenue. So from the actual agreements list, there's a little search feature that you can pull in any upcoming amortizations within the next 30 days. And so within that, you can check this, hit actions, amortize agreement revenue, and that's going to actually pump those into QuickBooks for you.
Okay, so whenever we close out an invoice, the batching process, is that a manual batching process over to QuickBooks, or does it automatically go over there? And is it a two-way communication, or is it just one way?
It can be either, actually, as far as the batching process goes. So on the work order level, actually, it's not even on the work order level. It's on one of the settings for the work orders. You can specify whether this type of work auto posts the invoice. Okay. So in which case, when it says post, that's pushing it actually through to QuickBooks. And as far as the two-way communication goes, that's a work in progress. There's so much stuff that you can get back from QuickBooks. That's like, you start with the initial, all right, we got it into QuickBooks, cool. And then we need to edit things in QuickBooks. Okay, cool. And now it's
the two don't match.
Yeah, and so there's subtleties and intricacies with those that have to be addressed.
I've gone to like a war planning or our end of the year planning for the next year, and people are there and they're like, well, my CRM says that we made this much money, but
Right.
QuickBooks says we didn't make that much money.
Exactly. And so that's actually on our, as far as our development board goes, that's literally been like at the top of the list for about a month is, and then obviously these other things come along with it, but that's the general long-term thing. And that's never going to be fully done because there's always different things that you need to add into it.
Yep.
And let QuickBooks do an update.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost as bad as Apple.
Right. So tell me, we don't have a whole lot of time left,
Right.
but tell me really quickly, if you would, about the mobile side of things. I guess I could probably just spitfire questions and people can ask for more details like through a demo. But on the mobile side, does the admin side have access to mobile, or can they only access through desktop?
That's actually one of the things that I didn't even realize was that unique about us until people were like, "What? You can do that?" But
I'll tell you, nobody can that I know.
Yeah, I see that question a lot in different groups.
The entire software works just as well on desktop as it does on mobile. So like the mobile piece of it, you have full access, the same exact level of access that you have on the desktop. It's all formatted, formatted a little bit differently for the screen.
Tell me this, just break my heart. It's a different login, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Get out of here.
Let me see. I don't know if I'll be able to screencast from my tablet to this, but I'd love to be able to show you that, because that was one of the things that, to me, I'm a big fan of going on vacation. Now I don't get to do. I haven't gotten to do that in about.
I just don't do it.
About 3 years now. Yeah, it's been a while, but if we were to talk life goals, I want to be able to do my job from anywhere, and I know every business owner is basically the same way. So, when we're giving a demo, I try and point out the fact that you could be sitting on the beach sipping margaritas and doing your job in Service Point Pro, and it's it'll work just the same. That being said, there's different little subtleties to each mobile platform. Apple, everybody uses Apple. Not everybody, but most people use Apple in a business setting. So Apple is
normal people, except for Joshua.
The standard.
I'm a Samsung guy.
And
all right, you and I are on the same page with that. That's I joke that development is 30%, coming up with new features, and 70% either user proofing it or Apple proofing it, because Apple's notoriously like 4 years behind the curve on making technologies available to developers, and specifically with web technologies, it becomes more and more difficult. But
I think one of the things that sets us apart, that really makes Service Point Pro unique, is it's our customer service approach to the business. We grew up taking care of customers just like our customers take care of customers. You answer the phone at 3 a.m. when they need something, you show up and you take care of it. And so Fish has really been pretty focused on making sure that this software is pretty accessible to most people, and that if you need us to adjust it or tweak it, we can do that. And so when you think about that mobile piece of it, most people, they're doing that because they want to set up the money differences. It's just like any service job. You roll up, if you get caught up in the money, it probably isn't going to go great for you, and it may not go great for the customer. If you think about taking care of your customer and educating them and providing the options that they need, the money becomes a non-factor. And so that's kind of how we're treating this. Is we're not getting too caught up in the money side of it. We want to provide a great product that people want to use. If we do that, I guarantee we'll probably be successful.
100%. Provide the wow service, and the money comes.
That's right.
Yeah, it comes along with it.
Either that or you block the client.
Right.
So I noticed in the comments on here, George is a fantastic person. He's
he is.
He's definitely.
You guys better say nice things. He's a customer of mine too.
Oh, no. So, but one thing about George is he feels like he's being difficult, and it's not. difficult at all. It's actually
he referenced that
welcome.
somewhere. Yeah, he referenced that up on it was like the first comment we got. So
yeah, exactly. I think he's definitely harder on himself than I would be. He's been fantastic with pointing out like he's gone through every little thing, and if I do this, will it do this? And he's been, to me, tremendously valuable in helping to kind of user proof it and
figure out how to break it.
We built it for one initial use case, and then we built it out to make it more flexible for everybody. And every time somebody comes in saying, I need to do this, how do I do it? And it's like, that's actually, let me get back to you tomorrow, because I think we could do that like overnight. And
that's cool.
I'm a big fan of rapid iteration, in that, being able to take what somebody said one day and hopefully by the end of the week have something that works fairly well for them. Obviously you got to get in there and test it real well, but I don't like back to I used to say no and then yes. Now I say yes and then I should have said no and then no, we're doing it anyway. I'm gonna have a couple sleepless nights, but it's gonna be worth it. So there's been a lot of stuff that's just changed in the last month and a half, just based on user input and making things work better. Company settings is actually a very valuable thing. So you can run your business the way you want to run it, and you're not running it based on how the software says you need to run it. So within here, we're constantly building this out and adding additional company settings so that you're not stuck doing it the way we told you to do it. So one of the things that came up with that, we had a company switching over from probably the biggest competitor that everybody knows of, but they're used to a button that says dispatch. And for us, that was called en route. To me, dispatch didn't make sense, because dispatch is like you dispatch a technician out to a trip. The technician doesn't dispatch himself to a trip. But it was just a simple terminology difference that they were like, man, this is causing some confusion for some people. So I said, well, let's change that. So you can come in here and change the way those buttons look, and you can say dispatch, update it. And then when you go in, when a technician goes in on his side, he's going to see, now this is the desktop view of it. So it's going to look a little bit different than it does actually on a mobile device. Let me make this available to the technician.
We did have a question in the meantime from somebody else that said, so it must have been watching James' screen as he was poking around. What is the best practices category? What does that relate to?
Well, so that's actually, that learning center is something that you guys can control as a client. So we have Service Point Pro related training in there, but you guys can go in and build your own custom training programs. If you have a specific way you want to train your employees, or if you wanted to create a whole apprenticeship section, you can go in and you can actually add classes and assign steps to each class and upload videos and images, and it can be really anything you want. So that best practices thing was just that's a little test category that Tracy and I put in there, playing around with how that can.
So essentially that could be like your company training platform.
Exactly. Yep.
So they can access it on a device anywhere.
I wonder, so tell me this, would you be able to force a test on that? It's completely off subject.
Yeah. So as far as okay, you went through these 5 steps, now fill out this quiz and receive results. That's something that I really wanted to put in there, because I was like, man, for training users, offering user training is everybody wants to do online training, but in reality, online training is definitely not as effective as in-person training. But
because they can just set it right here and then they can look over there.
Right. Exactly. But so if you have quizzes and whatnot in there, and then you can see the results of that, and then you could say, sorry, you bombed that, you're not moving on to the next section. You'd be able to do that. So I've already started working on implementing quizzes in the training.
So I guess let me ask you a question on, so I'm thinking, Zoom, you can record Zoom meetings, and now with a lot of things being virtual, like Tersh's company, he wants to have a company training. It's on Zoom. Can he take that training, or maybe he has a rep come in and he wants to record the training, can that just be uploaded to like the best practices category if anyone wants to reference that at a later date?
Yeah. I mean, you could upload any video that you want and then utilize that however you want within there. So it's just a matter of you saying, I want to use it this way. So
what we originally envisioned with that is that it would be a best practice is, hey, we're putting in a yard hydrant. We're trying to, I mean, obviously in our trade, we're always trying to bring up new people because there's a shortage. And so it's like, how do we get people to see those best practices? This is how you put in a yard hydrant. This is the depth that needs to be, you need to put some concrete around it. You need to put some gravel under it.
Yeah.
You got to secure it, all that stuff. Well, how do you get that to everybody? And so this seemed like a great way to do that. And Fish was able to add it in so that I think it's very front side at this point, but gosh, the power of that particular piece of this. And I mean, so big term vision, gosh, couldn't that be shared among our users, so that a guy in South Carolina and a guy in Texas are using the best same practices. It seems like that'd be great sharing across the industry for sure.
And then whenever my guy doesn't pour the concrete correctly around that hydrant, I could take his tablet and throw it at him.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Especially if he passed the test.
Well, you can take the picture. I mean, the great thing, you could take the pictures beforehand, after. You could save them in here to the customer file. I mean, obviously, depending on how detailed you are, you can go back and review every one of those if you want to. That's obviously how it depends on how you run your business.
Let me ask you this. Is there a way on the invoice, because some technicians are, I'm going to say some, but we all know it's a lot more than some, are not very descriptive in their summary typing.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I would have guessed that.
No. So
they're usually on one or the other side of that coin, right? So they don't want to put anything, and some others will write a book.
Yeah, it's diarrhea of the mouth, and you're like, don't tell the customer that. Like,
I actually literally yesterday had an instance where, on the database side of things, you set up a field and you say this field can hold this many characters. And I had a guy in the field like, it's not working. I'm hitting, create agreement. It's not working. And so I look at it and see the error message that he's getting, and it was because of the number of characters. He'd written this entire novel, and it was only set up to accept this. So that's kind of one of those things that as we go, you gotta be flexible.
Is there a way to have a form or even a fillable PDF that the guys have to fill out on a tablet or anything like that, so that I can make sure that we get a uniform? Because that's what I've had to do with our guys, is create a form so that the senior guys, they hated it to start with until they learned the why behind it.
Right.
But the junior guys loved it because they were missing steps along the way. And so, but for me, I like it because it's uniformed, and so I can look at any job and say, this is, I know consistency, and I can watch it progress too, as long as they fill it out correctly too. But
right, yeah. So we have checklists. We do have form. We have a form builder too, where the form builder. I originally built the form builder and made it really flexible that you could control virtually every aspect of it. You can resize. I want this column to be a little bit bigger.
Do a little HTML.
Yeah, more or less, but you don't have to know HTML to do it. You can pick component types and say, I want to add a checkbox here, a signature box here. I want to put a label here, an image. You could do a bunch of different things with it, but then it was cumbersome if you're creating an agreement type and you wanted to assign checklists for each one of the tasks. So I separated the two, and checklists are super simple. You just add a section, and then within each section, you can add a list of items or checkbox items. Within each one of those checkboxes, each one has a notes field. So you can add specific notes for each one. You can make specific checkboxes required. Required means it's either required that you either input it, you check it, or you put notes on why you didn't check it.
Can photos be added to that note section or anything?
Yeah, so I haven't added photos to the checklist yet. You can upload photos on the work order level.
Gotcha.
I actually had somebody ask that this week and was like, I didn't think about that, but why not add them directly to?
Is there a way with photos to add them to the work order level? And maybe this is more of an advanced step, because I know we used to add a lot photos every single job to the CRM we were using. But then we had to manually take them out of there to use them for our other marketing stuff and some of the other things that we did. Is there a way to, and maybe you guys haven't, I know we talked about Zapier and stuff like that when we were out in Kentucky. I don't know if there's a way to, like, once these photos get uploaded, they can go to like a Google Drive folder. They can go somewhere else. That way they can be reused, repurposed, especially for people that do social media marketing and want to have like unique, fresh content. And maybe it's not possible.
No, that's completely possible. Did I build it that way? No, but there's no reason that we couldn't make it that way. The way that the image uploads work is they go to a cloud storage folder it's dynamically generated as far as where it needs to go. All it would take to really do that is allow you to specify where they go. And then it's a boom, boom, it's there. And now I have access to this as I need it.
Okay. So as far as the rest of the stuff on the bottom of the screen for anyone watching and for anyone listening, just listening to this, go to servicepointpro.com and schedule yourself a demo. We're not going to completely unveil and take the entire dress off here. You guys have to at least schedule a demo with these guys. They are definitely improving. I mean, I have a couple clients and friends that are using ServicePoint Pro, and like anything, right? It's always getting better. Software literally is an endless, thankless. it's always needing to improve. There's always something to fix.
Right.
But what I was most impressed by, and what I've been impressed by with just the feedback I've heard, is similar to what George commented down below here. Is just the responsiveness and the willingness to tweak things to make it personal to that company, because I think sometimes software gets built and it gets built for the masses, right? And
they try to cram everybody into that mold.
Everybody, you have to try to take a round peg and put it into a square hole, and
Yep.
at least you guys are trying to find the round hole.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really great thing that there is someone who has been in the shoes of contractors. You guys have had to deal with this from a contracting perspective, and now we're trying to make it where other contractors can use this, and you understand the hurdles and the problems and the daily rigors of what contractors and CSRs and technicians go through. So it's very
the manager has to deal with a technician.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, honestly, like being able, like myself, I got a trip coming up here. We're taking a road trip, being able to take a tablet or a Surface Pro and just like check it real quick and be able to do whatever I need to do for an hour or two a day while I'm gone. And the company still runs and you can still see everything.
I was
think
flying
it's a huge
back
benefit
from
for people.
Ohio yesterday, and I just was like, I've never tried it from an airplane. Let's try it from an airplane. So I was on the airplane Wi-Fi, pulled it up, and it was actually better than I thought it would be, because that satellite internet's never like high speed. But it pulled up. I even went so far as pulling up a couple dashboards and doing the things that I'm like, okay, it probably can't do this on this Wi-Fi, but it still worked. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think the innovation and getting, again, there's really two prime competitors that everyone knows about if you're ever in these groups. So it's nice to see some innovation and some other ideas, because that makes us all better and it makes us think outside the box, like Tersh says he likes to do. And so it was really great for you guys to come on and share your story, because I think
we
it's
appreciate it. I'm actually getting tons of texts right now, and so.
Tersh, your AIM meeting tomorrow is going to be filled with questions.
Could be. They answered a lot of them, so I appreciate that for sure.
Awesome.
One thing we've learned going through this is that we came from building it for a big company and thinking like, all right, if it'll work for the big company, it'll definitely work for the little company. And as we started to bring on the little company, it's the same for across the board. It doesn't matter how big your company is, you do things different ways. And so that's been a constant flexibility thing. We break down, we figure out what we need to do, because we're going to get you sorted out one way or another, So that's going to be our calling card, really. We're going to make it work, and we're going to make it work right. So.
Cool, man. We appreciate that.
That's awesome. So again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to Tersh or myself. We'll get you in contact with Tracy or James. Otherwise, go to servicepointpro.com and you can certainly reach out to these guys and schedule your own demo. But as far as the rest of the stuff goes, guys, it's always in your best interest to make sure you know what products are on the market. I think that's one of the, and Tersh can probably agree with me, that's one of the best parts about what we do with the show is we get introduced to things that most contractors have no idea exist through the different networking opportunities and stuff we have. So us being able to bring this stuff to you is hugely beneficial because you just don't know. You're too busy running your business on a day-to-day level. And this is really what him and I enjoy the most is helping you guys bring this to you. So that way you can make a decision that's best for your business. So again, Tracy, James, thank you very much. And hopefully this generates some business for you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
We enjoyed it. All right.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery. Now that you are equipped with essential business advice from this impactful conversation, you are one step closer to becoming the successful owner of your dreams. If this episode has been helpful to your business journey, don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and share it with other owners as well. Visit servicebusinessmastery.com to learn more.